Then there's now the pathway for technology. That's where now a child can do design and technology, or they can do computer science. Yes. And then there's also ICT. So for a child in the technology pathway, which is a STEM pathway, they can do computer science to prepare them. What is hindering tech education in Zambia is things like resources. So I had talked about, when I said learners are learning about computers in even before high school, what hinders other learners from maybe is the resources, because you'd find that the school has got one computer lab and the class has got I don't know how many pupils.
Wow. Hey. So, guys, welcome to the Tech Convo Podcast. We're here to talk tech again. So, thank you so much for joining us. Please stick around. This is your boy, Sai, and joining me here is, I don't know if it's me joining him or him joining me or we're joining each other, but we're just here together, and that's what's good. This is my buddy, Chims, here. So today we're basically going to talk about the future of tech in Zambian education. That is what we're going to be talking about. Yeah.
So we are talking about the future of tech in Zambian education. Yeah. We want to explore tech in the education system that we have in Zambia, because if we look at other countries, I think children get equipped with technical knowledge and knowledge about ICT, programming, coding from a very young age. And so we are trying to see how we are going about it here in Zambia.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And then, guys, please take note that we are focusing mainly on should you say junior? Yes, on junior education, guys. So from maybe just before university, that's the education we're talking about when you talk about education. So that's what we'll be focusing on in this particular episode. So please stick around, and this is gonna be fire.
Exactly. Gonna be fire.
Yeah. So without wasting much of your time, guys, we're just going to talk about the why tech is important in Zambia, right? So from the get-go, since 1964, the days of Atiende Pamozi, Nimti, Maumo, Zambia has always been this country, okay, that strives or just wants to be, ahead of things. It might not have gotten, might not have been effective in doing that, but it's always been trying. There's always been that trying, willing to advance and all that. We've seen things come and go, this and that, but we're just gonna talk about tech. Tech, James. How do you think? Why do you think it's important? I know you're probably going to talk about AI and how it advances, but why do you think it's important here in Zambia, tech? We've seen people, or if we're talking education, we've seen parents who discourage their children, saying, my computer, okay, maybe you knock off from school. I've seen, because this happened to me, this has happened, probably happened to you as well, and some other person out there. So you knock off maybe from school, your high school, and then you're there trying to maybe use a computer, and then they're saying computer type, because to them it's not something they were familiar with, or their intake yavo is even zeriko. So they don't really understand, or they do not resonate with the benefits they could get, or they do not know the benefits they can get from such. And so, what do you think yourself, you being a professional teacher? Let me just put it out there. My buddy here is a professional teacher. So yeah, and he happens to be in tech, teaching tech to the leaders out there, the future leaders. But yeah, so with the experience that you've got, why do you think tech is important in Zambia, and particularly in the tech industry?
So we are talking about education, and then we're talking about technology. So you had mentioned about maybe the times we were children in our childhood, and then people would discourage us from spending a lot of time on computers, spending a lot of time on phones, because they would say there's no future in such, right? But I think if we are looking at it from today, through my experience, I think a lot of people have embraced technology. They've embraced computers, they've embraced phones, and a lot of people are using it to sometimes to an extent where even the children themselves tend to lose focus from school and much focus on the phone. So I think people have seen the importance of technology. They've seen the importance. I'll just give an example from something as simple as social media. I think most of us did not see social media to be something that is very influential, that back then. But then now you'd find that a lot of people, even parents included, have seen the value that social media has. So you'd find that a parent would be on social media trying to brand themselves, create a personal brand to promote their businesses, to promote their careers, because they've seen the value that this thing has. So now, no, I don't think a lot of people now discourage children. If anything, parents force children to take up subjects like computer.
Yeah.
Like parents who understand the current situation. But I know there are still parents, they're known as the BBC. Yeah, they are the born before computers type of parents who don't want, who discourage children and tell them maybe computer science is too hard for you. You know what I mean? And then say this is not so important, you're going to be a doctor. But then for people who truly understand, they see computers as something that is in every industry, because they use it in the industries they are in themselves. So they could be teachers use computers.
Yeah.
There could be lawyers use computers. There could be pilots, they use computers. So I think now Zambia has reached a stage where we're embracing tech.
Yeah. Okay. And it's so important, right? So what you just explained, it just took me back to, when we were finishing high school. So then I had this drive and this, the urge, and I just had this enthusiasm for I just want to do computer science. And then I remember when I was, before that, it was no, computers are bad, they're wasting time. And then when I finished school, it was like, oh, okay. And then that was just an amazing thing to see that, okay, people are starting to acknowledge that tech is the future of the world, and for Zambia as well. It's something that helps out in pretty much every industry, as you say, in law, in medicine, in pretty much everything. IT has puts in something here or there, and what it puts in is getting pretty much the vastness of what tech puts in, or the input of what tech in. I don't know what you want. You probably cut this off, but what tech brings to the table is getting bigger and bigger as the years go by. And you also mentioned, you also talked about, if anything, now parents are the ones pushing for their children to be on tech, and then that reminded me of, certain parents who are on TikTok. It's it's a funny thing to just see, a parent on TikTok, and then it's obviously not good for those ones who use profane language and all those things, just use it for negative things. But just seeing parents there, it's something like taking those selfies where the parent selfies the parent selfies. But yeah, it's nice to see that. But yeah, it's nice to see that. As long as it's not being abused, it's good to see that, and then it's being embraced, which is a good thing. So you've talked about the importance of technology in Zambia, right? Now we're just gonna move on to maybe is there any progress, right? So you've talked about then and now, and then yourself, has there been any progress in what you are seeing in schools, particularly? Like, okay, if then it was this way, and then now, how is it like? Has there been any difference?
Okay, so I would the difference is there, especially in schools, because we were together in primary school as well as junior secondary, right? Yeah. So now, during those years, we never had exposure to computer lessons. Not in primary school, not even in junior secondary school. So for people who had today, people do computer lessons at school from early ages. So you'd find that somebody is like 8 in grade 4 and they are doing computer lessons. And that is the improvement that I've seen so far. Then as well as we have now teachers who understand tech very well, because you'd see that if you're being trained to be a computer science teacher, you are being trained to be a programmer, you are being trained, basically you are learning computer science, you are learning about system development, you are learning about network engineering, networks, you are learning about all these things. So you have got this knowledge that you are going to impart in the learners, and this is now where we see teachers going beyond the syllabus. A few of them, yes. Some of them, no, but yes. But then, especially in private schools, we see teachers going beyond the syllabus, teaching learners things like web development. Of course, there's HTML in grade 11, but then they teach learners web development beyond that. Like they teach them maybe CSS, because at school they only learn HTML. Encourage children to learn maybe Python or any other programming language and tell them, okay, you need to learn to code. But Python is not in the syllabus. There's C++ and Pascal. So now that is the difference that I've seen, I think, I would say.
Okay. So there you have it, guys. There has been
An improvement.
How significant is that improvement? So definitely the improvement has been there. I remember back in the day, computers, like you mentioned, computer lessons were like, it was a surprise. It's like
Very much.
they're getting to get, because at that time, like personally, for me, my experience is the only time you could access a computer, like that was before I went to high school, was, when maybe you meet an elderly person, who happens to leave the computer, and then the only button you get to press is maybe 1 or 2 or the forward or back button, and then you touch the trackpad. That's like just how little the exposure was. And then you finally get to high school and they're like, okay, there's that computer science. And then as a result, even the computer science class didn't have people, because people were just afraid of the guy. What me? Computers in my computer. It was something that was not. And then you finally get some people who are courageous enough to get into the class, the computer class. They dropped out, because it was just like too much. Because they're like, what is this? What is this new thing you're bringing? It was like too much. That's at the time. Luckily for us who had interest, and then we happened to have access to the computer most of the time in high school. We coped well as compared to the other guys. So I was talking about the margin. So the improvement has definitely been there.
Yes.
But if we're talking percentage, what percentage would you say?
I would say,
or the rate?
I would say the improvement is there. And when I say there's improvement, I'm weighing the improvement on a Zambian perspective. I'm looking at where we're coming from. So the improvement is a little bit significant if we were to compare with others, like if we were to compare with other countries and what they are learning in those countries. So what is hindering tech education in Zambia is things like resources. So I had talked about, when I said learners are learning about computers in even before high school, what hinders other learners from maybe is the resources, because you'd find that the school has got one computer lab and the class has got, I don't know how many pupils.
Wow.
Yes. So that is like something that's a very big setback. So of course the knowledge that teachers have is on top, but then the resources are below. Because even schools that have got computers, check what computers they are using. You tell me.
Windows Vista.
Yeah, you'd find that the school has got Windows 7. Like we're on Windows 11. Come on. So there's that as well as a setback in terms of resources. So if I was to say percentage, we are definitely less than 50%. Less than 50%. Let me put it on 30.
All right. So a 30%, a rate of,
3/10.
3/10. That's like a rate. I don't have to call it a rate or a percentage, but That's just, the margin or the rate we're improving at here in Zambia, compared to back in the day. We're obviously not going to compare to other countries really in detail because it's a race against ourselves. We're trying to move forward. So the improvement has been there, according to my experience buddy here, something like 30%. Obviously, we need to work on increasing that to maybe 70, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but with the AI thing going on, hopefully there's going to be, some drastic increase in improvement.
So the industry, you've brought in AI, but then how many schools have internet access? Because for you to access AI, you need internet.
There you have it.
So that's still a setback. That's where my faith is. I know that some people in the comment section might argue differently. And bring in your arguments as well. I want to hear from you. How you see the improvement if you have experienced before and now. But I would say, like how many schools have got internet access? Because learners need to research. Because here in Zambia, we don't allow learners to go with cell phones, tablets, or laptops at school. The only thing they can depend on are libraries, that most of them are outdated. You'd find that books are very old and they can get recent information on the internet, on AI like ChatGPT, but then they don't have internet access again.
Mm-hmm. So that's so profound right there. I'm just gonna go back a bit and just talk about how, you mentioned cell phones.
Yes.
So I feel we set ourselves back as Zambians in terms of advancement, right? We're saying we want to do it the traditional way and say, okay, books. He mentioned books being outdated. Information, this is the information age, right? Information is coming in every day. Information is updating every time. You don't want a situation where someone is graduating and then all they know is maybe, just a basic stuff, outdated stuff. Things are advancing every day these days. And then what you want is recent knowledge. What you want is fresh knowledge.
Yeah.
Fresh out the oven. And then a good way to do that is, introducing phones. They use. I mean, if the government cannot afford computers, we're talking about a cell phone has battery life. And then we're saying the government cannot afford computers. And I don't know, you're probably going to, they can.
They can,
yes.
And then, but schools have computers, but we are talking about numbers in those schools.
Yeah.
Then,
obviously, yes.
Then let me also argue, bringing in phones might help, but we are talking about schools in Lusaka. Those are the schools that can, even schools in Lusaka, like just government schools. How many pupils have got phones? So if we say phones should be allowed, we are talking about private schools. We are talking about, I won't mention names because that can be free advertisement. Yeah, but
yeah. So my point is, I understand. So it's we're a bit lagging behind in a lot of things as a country.
Yes.
So I mentioned cell phones because it seems like a better way of approaching it, right? If we're saying the price of a phone is maybe 1,000, let's put it at 1,000. The price of a decent computer would maybe be 3,000 to 4,000. Just like, we're talking about something basic.
I almost said 15,
brand new. So if you're getting them in bulk, they're probably going to be. It depends on your plug, guys. So if you need, that's to me.
Hooker, I can hook you up.
But so obviously, if the price of a computer and a phone are not the same. A phone is obviously cheaper, and then it's called a cell phone because it's built for everyone accessing it.
Yeah.
And then if everyone can accessing it right now, a lot of students, even in high school students, have cell phones. So if you say let's allow that, a lot of people are going to afford that, and then the learning curve is going to be better. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, no, there's going to be more bad than good. Argue in the comment section, but if we're being realistic, information is being updated every time, and then if we could find a way of restricting the internet from those websites, other websites, but letting the internet, just be locked into something constructive like education website, then do that. I don't see any harm. And then you also talked about internet. And then there's Zesco also. So it's just wild in Zambia if you live in here. So it's something that, but it's a good. The good thing is you can charge phones. So here and there you can charge, and then we could work around it. You could even re-study with the phone when it's dark, which is an advantage. So I'm recommending phones. I mean, I'm not all that. I mean, nobody in the tech industry, but phones would be a good direction if we're talking about advancing with regards to technology, right?
Yeah. I had talked about the BBC. So when you bring in the conversation of phones, like this is a huge debate. Like right now, it's a huge debate because we still have parents that believe a child cannot have a phone.
Yeah.
But then one thing that we don't know is that phones, there's also parental control features that can allow you access to a child's phone, right?
Yeah.
So meaning you as a parent can still have control over what your child views on a phone. You can still know what your child views on a phone because even the internet is not a safe space for children, for minors. And that's why other countries decided to ban maybe social media. But then I was even looking at a study that was carried out to check the effectiveness of banning phones in schools in the USA. The study was done in the USA. I came across the video, I think, on YouTube this very week. So they were saying that even they were comparing, because you know how states operate and how schools operate. So other schools will allow phones, other schools do not allow phones. And then they did a comparison on screen time. So the thing is, the schools that don't allow phones, the screen time doesn't reduce because the child gets home and gets the phone and compensates all the screen time. Yeah, all the hours that they didn't have in school, they compensate those hours when they get home.
But I will show you.
So basically, so from the study, they said it's not effective. Now, the point is, how can we like use phones effectively in education? Because even now you'd find that teachers would say, I'm sending notes on the internet, and then you download the notes, and then other parents would say, no, you are supposed to write on the board with a chalk in your hand. Even if it makes you dead, it's okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. So this is like a huge debate, and I would love our audience to tell us their views as well.
Yeah, so personally, that's an interesting topic. We should take a look at that in detail. Yeah?
It should be a separate topic.
It should be a separate topic, an episode. What do you think, guys?
Yes.
So, I think it's something to do, we call the BBC born before computers. So it's something that they don't understand.
Yeah.
You can't really, I mean, if I'm seeing blue here, you can't tell me that's red. Meanwhile, there is red there, RGB. So, if we're talking color, if that has Peter you, then
don't worry, he's a designer.
So now, what I'm talking about, what I mean is they don't really understand and resonate, like I mentioned earlier, if you guys remember. So it's something that they can't understand. So I'm glad we're getting to a point where it's being inclusive, and then everyone is getting to understand. I feel as time goes by, when people die, people die. I'm not talking about extinction, guys, but it's like we're doing away with the old mentality, even with the people that just refuse to think constructively. But eventually, I believe eventually, in a few years, not so far from now, given the way things are going, it's something that we're going to embrace. And then with regards to maybe the phone situation or the phone topic, it's something that maybe could be worked around, because it's a good idea in itself. It's something that could be worked around. It's something that could save people on maybe books, paper. We're saving trees. But yeah, that's that. So you at some point mentioned, how parents, how children struggle, or just maneuvering the subject, not liking this. I also talked about this, but what do you think about the education system itself? The computer science, how, when someone gets into maybe grade 10, is it,
Yes.
when is it introduced to them? Grade 8?
So they have, so we can look at two curriculums. The new one that will be implemented.
I know the basic one. So
And then the old one before, you start computer studies at grade 8. And then you also have it from 10 to 12. Although 10 to 12 is mostly an optional. And then for most schools, other schools treat 8 and 9 computer studies as optional, but some schools take it as compulsory. Even some schools, like the school I'm working with right now, takes grade 10 to 12 as a compulsory subject, looking at the importance of IT in Zambia.
Yeah. So now, having mentioned that, so it's introduced to them at around grade 8, right?
Yes.
How is the education system like? You mentioned for some other people, or for some other students or children, it's an option. And then some other schools, I think, do not even have that.
Yeah.
And let's look at the schools in the villages. Those people, it's not even there, guys. It's like, I don't know when we're going to see the Windows logo.
So the only mouse they know is the Canberra. So
Yo, yeah, it's 4 bars, okay?
Apple bars,
But but what do you think about the education itself, system itself? I think the government also mentioned something about introducing a new curriculum.
Yes.
How is all that? How is it going to work? What are they saying they'll do? It beyond understanding. So I'm saying this, he should explain that, because he's the professional. He's more in the space. So what do you think about the whole thing?
Okay, so I'll take you back just a little bit. I said computers are introduced in grade 8 up to 12.
Yeah.
But then I forgot that also there is creative technology studies in primary.
CTS.
Yeah. So there's component of computers in CTS because it's creative technology studies. Yes. And then there are some schools that take computer in primary as a subject that is non-examinable, just to give learners skills. Yes. And then you said that we should compare the two curriculums, right?
Yeah, so there's the old curriculum, and then there is the new one that the government, I don't know if I should say introduced, or wants to introduce something that will get in play very soon. Yeah, I think. So what is the main difference?
With the new curriculum, it's called they call it the competence-based curriculum. They are focusing on skills more than theory, which, if we look at the previous, it was more of theory. I think we all learned a lot of things in science, a lot of things in what, but then I was at a government school in grade 10 to 12. I went to how many times we went to the lab to do experiments if we are preparing for paper 2 for a test?
And my practicals.
That's the only time we go to the lab to do science practicals.
So now they only see iodine solution like twice in 6 months.
Yes. Only when you want to do a practical. And then the only practical we had was during the exam. So you know how teachers would just be like, exam yafika or gola tomorrow. So says, the guys, let me show you what's going to happen in the exam. You know what I mean?
When the teacher is the second time doing it.
Yes. So now the new system will be much focused on the skills, more practical than theory. And for computers, because we are focusing on technology, the government is introducing pathways that learners can take in preparation to future careers. So, a pathway in social science, a pathway in natural science, a pathway in maybe physical education and sports, a pathway in creative arts and music. And then there's now the pathway for technology. That's where now a child can do design and technology, or they can do computer science. Yes. And then there's also ICT. So for a child in the technology pathway, which is a STEM pathway, they can do computer science to prepare them to become the next person to build an AI system for Zambia, the next person to build that application that would take over the world from Zambia. Our next Mark Zuckerberg, our next, what's the name? There's that boy.
Brown.
Yeah, Brown one. Toby Brown. Yeah, our next Toby Brown. Check out Toby Brown. So those will be the ones doing computer science. And then there's ICT, which will be compulsory. So if you go to Form 1, which will be after your exam, for the first exam, you go to Form 1. If you are not doing technology, if you are not in technology, you do ICT. Meaning if you're in natural science, you do ICT, because computers are everywhere. No one is going to survive tomorrow without a computer. Children, if any child is watching this, you will not survive without a computer tomorrow. It's like in the Iron Age or the Stone Age or the times when people used to hunt. You couldn't survive if you never knew how to hunt. So you'll be hunted. Yes. And then now the education system, there was an education system. It wasn't teaching, but it was more about, we survive on hunting. Children were learning to hunt. Girls were learning to gather things. So even the education system now will focus much on the skills that will prepare children for that.
No, okay, that's quite comprehensive, guys. That's I was hearing terms like, no, I've even forgotten all about the terms, guys. So I don't know. He's a professional, but what I got from that is, so what you're saying is, if I am in high school,
yes,
I can take up something that is, you call them, is it STEM pathway or something?
They're pathways.
A pathway.
Yeah.
So if I want to be related to computers, that means I can't do these other things, eh?
So yes. In some way, you focus much on that, but then there are compulsory things like mathematics, English, obviously, and ICT. Like I said, ICT is compulsory.
So that means I don't have to take history if I'm interested in computers.
Yes. Also, civic education will be compulsory, because look at, it's around us. It's around us.
Politics, guys.
Yes, I only see.
But yeah, and current affairs.
Yes, current affairs, politics.
So it will be compulsory.
Civic education, ICT, mathematics, English, compulsory. And then you have options based on the pathway that you have. Like an example I gave was creative. You can do design and technology, or you can do computer science if you're in the technology pathway.
Oh, okay. So how many options? So you're mentioning there those compulsory subjects, math, English, civic education, and all that, right? There is also the science is also compulsory, right?
No, science isn't compulsory.
Oh,
yes. But for those who do natural science, physics, chemistry, biology will be compulsory for them. But for somebody who's doing social science, they can choose any of the sciences as an option.
So guys, if you want to be doctors, engineers, those the biology, the science, those are compulsory for you guys. Guys, if you want to do social, what do you call them? Social sciences.
Yeah.
Those ones are creative. Forget about you never touch biology in your life. Left those cells, just leave them. Only time you hear about cells is when you go and see your doctor. That is telling you, but it's a good thing. So for me, I see it as a good move because it will help me focus. I mean, if I was here in high school, yeah, I'll be more focused on something that I'm actually interested in, and not just waste my time studying notes and notes and notes. If I'm doing, for instance, natural sciences, I don't have to waste my time reading a lot of Bismarck, like Hitler.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say other things, but all those things. So it's actually a good move. It seems you've nicely explained it. Now I've sort of understood how it's also how's the rollout like. When do they plan on implementing this?
Implementation starts. So we are recording this on a Saturday, so Monday.
Oh yes, this here.
Yes, just this coming week. But then how it will be in a pilot changeover method. I don't know. Pilot changeover from.
I'm guessing it's the beta form, or
it's like and no, it will be more of a parallel move, not pilot. I made a mistake. The pilot stage was conducted from STEM schools, so they had selected schools where they did like a pilot project on the same curriculum. So those schools were testing it for the rest of us. So now in the next phase, it will be more of running two curriculums at the same time. So those who are going in Form 1, they will start
parallel.
Yes, they are moving. I was using them from system analysis and design. Yeah, so So they'll be learning. So we'll have the people in grade 9 this year. Those ones will continue, and they'll be the last grade 12s. Then we had the people who wrote grade 7 last year. Those are going to start the Form 1.
Yeah. So if you're in grade 7, you were in grade 7, it's a good thing for you. You don't have to, you'll be the new one, the new guy on the block. Like, that's all the attention, but there's a
But
be scared.
And this is the big but. Like, we are Zambia. Let me start with that statement. These pathways require resources. Like, from the way the education system is supposed to be implemented, it requires resources. So, not all schools can offer all the pathways.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like colleges and universities. They have certain things they can offer. So you'd find that and then there's also the thing of parents. Now, we were talking about parents. A parent wanted to be a doctor, and they want to impose it on the child.
They failed to be a doctor. Now they want to go, they are the doctor, and then they want the child to be the doctor.
Doctor, yes. So there's that thing. So I see it being implemented, but then I'm thinking that children will not have freedom to choose for themselves.
No peace.
One, because you might go to a school that doesn't offer a pathway you're interested in. And then your parents say, this is a school we are taking you to. So let's say somebody who wants physical education and sports, they go to a school that only has social sciences. Then they are going to do social sciences by default.
So it creates a gap where one is going to bring about, like he says, resources. So if I'm saying I want to do something like maybe design or what?
Design and technology.
Yeah, design and technology. So if I want to do design and technology, and then that means the next school I need to go to needs to have that, right? And then you go to a school, and then the school happens to not have that. I don't know if the government has a plan on how things are going to move around all this, because this is going to lead to issues where someone is coming from maybe this place, is going to a school that is very far just to go and do what they love.
Yes.
And then parents are not going to understand, because they're moving, it's their finances that are being used. It's going to be this school that is close by, whether you like it or not. And then it's just going to be messed up, if you ask me. But who am I? Maybe the government in their beta or testing stage tried all this out. We do not know. Yes, I guess we'll never know.
Yes, we'll never know. Yeah, so basically that's a challenge that I foresee. Yeah, resources. But from the way it has been presented, from how I've understood it, I feel like it's a very good move, and a lot of children are super, super excited. Like, this is what is going to be happening. Yay!
You can finally start practicing to be a Mordecai or a Yomaps when you're still in high school, guys.
In school.
And then even the government is for you doing it. I mean, that's something we never had.
We never had that option. Like, of course, there was music, but you'd find that you're taking music and you're taking something unrelated.
So it'll be music, and then maybe a pure subject like ADMA, or like what do you want, like history?
Yeah, because I feel like my options were also kind of confusing. I had like geography, literature, and commerce.
I had geometrical and mechanical drawing, and then next thing you know, I'm holding a Bible in RE.
How are they connected? Geography, literature, commerce, geometrical.
What else? And RE. It was a mess. But yeah, well, we're here, so
yeah,
it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Your children, even you children, will have something that has been refined and that has been thought of. So that's a good thing overall. Guys, so thank you so much for sticking around. See you in the next one. It's been Sai and Chims. Till next time. Peace.